Do you ever freeze when someone asks you, so what do you do? If you can't explain it quickly and clearly, then clients are not going to buy it. So that's why on September 18th, I'm hosting a free live workshop called How to Build a Brand People Feel, Not Just Follow. And in 30 minutes, I'll teach you how to nail your positioning so that you know how to talk about your business in a way that makes people actually care. So they feel it and they step in and say yes. The link to the workshop is in the show notes. I can't wait to see you there. Why people don't get what you do and how to fix it. That is what we're talking about today. Because you're probably really good at what you do. And I know how frustrating it is because I dealt with this in the early stage of my business. And it was so hard to explain what I did in a simple, succinct way that people immediately understood the value. Now, we're going to unpack why this happens today and then what you can do about it. So let's get into it. Welcome to Confessions of a Spiritual Entrepreneur. I'm Samantha Fackler, your host, business mentor, brand strategist, and someone who believes that building a business is one of the most spiritual journeys you can take. I am here to help you grow your business through proven strategies and aligned practices, so ultimately you can make more money while being in a state of ease. Now, why me? I have worked with over 100 companies and almost 14 years in the brand and marketing space. I've worked with brands that you, your mom, and your grandma know, but I am also spiritual. I love astrology, I keep crystals in my desk, and I'm a Reiki master. So I bring an extra little flavor to this conversation. Let's get into it. There are 4 common things that I see, and the first is the surface level trap. So this happens when we're like, well, we need just a little polish. We need to look better. We need a different color palette. We need a new set of fonts. We need a new website. I guarantee you that if people are not getting what you do right away, it's not because of these things. It's not because of the surface level stuff, because this polished piece will not fix that disconnect. The disconnect is deeper. So before you go redesigning your website or hiring a brand designer, take a moment and check this stuff. So my analogy for this is Legally Blonde in the beginning scene where she is going to dinner with her boyfriend and she thinks she's going to be proposed to. And basically they show up at dinner and at the very same time that she says, I do, he says, I want to break up. This is exactly like the moment where you're putting stuff out there and you're like, they're going to love me. They're going to want to put a ring on it and work with me forever. And they show up and are like, nope, bye, deuces, I don't get it, and I'm long gone. Now, in this scene in Legally Blonde, she reacts by saying, well, am I too blonde? Are my boobs too big? And he responds with, no, I have to think about my future. Now, feelings aside about the character of the boyfriend, this is the perfect analogy for what's happening because when we're thinking like, is it our website or is it our colors or our fonts? It's not. It's that the person that is going to get the most out of what you do, if they don't understand what it is that you're going to change for them and how their future state might be shifted, they're out of there. They're looking at the next person that does what you do, and they're going to go see what else the next person has that you don't. And we're going to get into some other differentiators and why they are passing you by too. But this was like the perfect analogy that came up when I thought about this. So the consequence of getting trapped in the surface level stuff is just that there's not going to be a connection. You can have the most beautiful website in the world, but if you're using the wrong words, and if it's not actually helping you stand out from the other people that do what you do, you're at a loss. Your clients are long gone. Number 2 is one of my favorite terms that I've coined, and it's called the fun house effect. And the fun house effect is when we are inside of our own business and we are the expert. We have all this beautiful knowledge in our sweet little heads, and we can't articulate what we do because we're the masters. We're the person behind it. This client, used this analogy once with me, and she was like, it's like when you're inside the bottle You cannot read the label on the outside. And that's exactly what happens here. The big lesson here that I don't think anyone is talking about is that branding requires you to work with other people. And you cannot do this kind of work with ChatGPT and Claude. And I'll get into that in a second. But like branding requires you to have sounding boards from other people. And it requires you to really understand the customer. And sometimes it's impossible for the service provider to literally take out their brain and put in the brain of the customer because you're two different people. And when we have all the knowledge and skills in our being and the way that we serve, it's so hard to unravel all of that and then try to step into the customer's shoes, even when we think we can do a good job at that. So in order to do this, there are a lot of different things. I'm going to go over that later. But for this, I really want you to understand how it's not all on you. And you do need other people to help you figure out how to articulate yourself correctly. Because even I have done this, right? So I'll get into my story in a second, but I need to work with other key people who have the right experience to help me understand, how do I talk to you, beautiful people, and have stuff make sense to you when things feel like they are just on autopilot and just happen in my head in the way I do them, like breaking it down for the customer. So the consequence is if you do not talk to anyone, you're going to miss clarity. You're not going to have any clarity in the way that you're speaking to people, which means that you're going to use the wrong words and you're probably going to get trapped in that surface level piece. Or you're just not going to register at all. People are not even going to notice you when you post, when you show up, or even when you talk about what you do. Right? If you think about explaining what you do to people at, let's say, a conference or a networking event, and their eyes kind of glaze over or they just kind of nod, and then the conversation goes on, yeah, that's a problem. That means you need to work on this stuff and figure out how to talk about what you do. The third big thing I see is inconsistency. So what your website says makes you look and sound a certain way. And then your Instagram feels kind of like a different person. You have some different colors going on, a different tone of voice. Maybe you have a really professional tone on your website, but your Instagram, all of a sudden, you're like using more emojis and acronyms and maybe cursing a bit. It's like if someone sees those, there's going to be a disconnect. And that inconsistency actually breaks trust. So the consistency piece is so important. When we talk about branding and everything that's in branding, consistency is like the main pillar of it. Because once you figure out how to talk about what you do and how things should look, you need to keep that going. Because that is when people start to recognize you. They build relationships with how you're showing up, with what you're sharing. That breeds loyalty, and that breeds evangelists that are, then starting to market you on your behalf. And that's when you have this really beautiful long-term success, all because you figured out your brand in the beginning. And yes, when I say brand, that does include figuring out how to talk about what you do so people get it. That's the very first step of branding before you get into the design and all that fun stuff. All right, the fourth big thing that I see that holds people back from figuring out how to talk about what they do is using generic language. Like they're using vanilla language when they're like a snickerdoodle cookie with icing with ginger or something. Like they're missing their spice. And I see this all the time. I think it's a combination of some of the things we've been talking about. Sometimes you just can't see your own magic, for lack of a better word. You really can't put it into words. Why is it that you're different than the 100 other people that do what you do? And I do this all the time when clients come to me or when they first start working with me and I'm reviewing their stuff. It's like I review their website and that could belong to literally hundreds of other people. And it doesn't tell me why they're different or why I should hire them or what the transformation is going to be. So The generic language piece is also really, really rampant because of ChatGPT. Now, I do love AI. I use it in my business all the time, every single day, but I do not use ChatGPT for this core positioning work. I need to say it louder for the people in the back. Do not use ChatGPT or AI tools to figure out how you talk about what you do. Because it doesn't matter what you feed in, it's going to give you something very generic. And it's going to give you something that probably it's also giving to thousands of other people who either do what you do or do something adjacent. I wish I could put this on a billboard and put it on every street corner in the world where entrepreneurs live. Because when we think about your positioning work, your positioning is like this one-liner that explains why you're different than everyone else, the transformation that you provide for people, and why people should trust you, ultimately. Like it has those key things in it. That means that the information that is feeding into how you craft that statement needs to come from your customers. It needs to come from you and people who know you, and these really key sounding boards that are humans who can look at all of this information and then creatively digest it and think critically in order to help you land on what that statement is. What is that unique thing that makes you stand out? And how do you say it so that people immediately get it? It clicks. ChatGPT can share a lot of stuff that sounds great, but it does not mean that it's going to work for you. And I have seen this with clients where they use ChatGPT to create positioning and they're like, it sounds good, right? I'm like, it sounds good, but it's totally missing life. It's missing you. It's not actually strategic. So that's just my little soapbox moment for that. But the big one here is that if you cannot figure out a way to talk about what you do in a way that has your unique spice to it, you're going to be forgettable. And that means no sales. That means no one actually stepping in to work with you. So I know those are 4 big things to digest. So I'm going to kind of share with you what this looked like for me. So a couple years ago, I thought I had a pricing issue. And I hired coaches to see like what would they share with me and how should I price my services? Should I be renaming them or something? And I got a lot of advice that I already knew. I was like, cool, that was a waste of time and money. Why aren't my offers selling then? And when I looked under the hood, I realized it had nothing to do with my website that looked pretty good. It had nothing to do with my offers because they were aligned and I had the pricing that I felt most comfortable with at the time. So I was going to sell that. There's no issue there. But positioning, I didn't know how to talk about what I did in a way that made me look and feel different than the hundreds of other business coaches out there because I am different and the way I coach is different. So I had to do digging into myself. I remember I reached out to friends. I started doing more feedback forms with clients to really dig into like, how is this experience different than all of the other business coaching experiences that women could have? And that helped me figure out my unique positioning. And it's to bring back Legally Blonde for a second. It's kind of like the end courtroom scene when she shows up. She's like in her signature color and she's kind of fumbling at first. Like she's going through the motions, everything she's studied in school, she's using, but it still feels like she's a little nervous. She's a little held back. That's like the moment before. That's like when I was like, gosh, what isn't working? Because things look pretty good. Stuff is structured well. Why aren't more people buying? And then when she finally lands on this thread in conversation in the courtroom that, this woman got a perm and there was a flaw in her story, then boom, her unique positioning comes in, right? All of a sudden, her experience with hair care and beauty that she loves comes rushing into the story and her fire comes back. Her personality is there and she absolutely slays. It's one of the best scenes in movie history, in my opinion. And that is what happens when we get our unique positioning. We really own who we are. We own what makes us different, and we charge forward with that. Now, I have seen this with clients time and time again. I had a client come to me once who really wanted to work on her offers. She was like, I don't know if it's their structure, with what's included, their naming. And I looked at her offers, but when I looked at her website, her email newsletter, her Substack, her Instagram, her LinkedIn, all these places that she was showing up, she was pouring energy into, she was posting consistently. I was like, there is a huge disconnect in how you talk about what you do. And her website actually could have been a photographer, a relationship coach. Like, it could have been so many different people because it was not specific enough. It was too generic. It looked good, but it didn't sound good. It sounded okay. It sounded, it sounded beautiful, but it didn't sound like her. It was completely missing her essence and her unique positioning. Yes, she came to me with this generic messaging and offers that we needed to crystallize. So we really first worked on the positioning piece, because then that made the offers really easy to understand. Positioning is like the first domino. And when you hit that, everything from messaging to creative direction to your offers, even your pricing, all of it becomes really smooth and easy. So after we were able to tackle her unique positioning and even use that to refine her offers, she has now been consistently growing. She gets new clients all the time. She shares about those client stories all the time. And it is the most fulfilling, rewarding thing to witness, because all it took was getting that burst domino, and then boom, here we go. She has flow. She's growing. So if clients don't get what you do, then it's sometimes not an offer or pricing problem. It's not even a website problem. It is often a positioning problem. And so I'm going to go deeper into this in a step-by-step way in a free workshop called How to Build a Brand That People Feel, Not Just Follow. It is September 18th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. If you sign up, of course, you'll get the recording if you can't make it live. And we're really going to be cracking this nut for people and helping you walk through what is your positioning statement, how do you craft that, and there will even be a chance for people who show up live to get a free audit from me while on the call at the very end. So actually giving you like exact words and feedback on how to crystallize it. Now, I have never done a workshop in this style before. It's only going to be 30 minutes. We're going fast, and there's not going to be any fluff. So we're going to move through it. The link to the workshop is in the show notes. I hope you join us. Thank you for being here. My name is Samantha Fackler. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram at samantha.fackler. And I will see you at the workshop on September 18th.